My beloved, pause for a moment and listen, not just with your ears, but with the deep place inside you that knows when something sacred is stirring. Imagine this: you are standing at the threshold of a courtroom, not of stone and wood, but of spirit and consequence. The air is thick with anticipation. A woman you know, her face familiar, her presence heavy, steps forward, clutching papers that seem to pulse with invisible weight. You sense that what she carries could change everything. In this moment, confusion swirls around you like a storm. What is she holding? Why does your heart race as if it already knows the verdict? Yet, above the noise, a voice breaks through, clear, commanding, and impossibly gentle. It is Archangel Michael, the guardian of justice, the defender of the overlooked. He declares, there are 30 seconds left. Heaven is watching. What happens next will not erase you, but reveal you. You feel the tension between fear and faith, confusion and clarity. The courtroom is not just a place of accusation, but a stage for revelation. You may not know what is written on those papers, but you know what is written on your heart. The threat of erasure is real, but so is the promise of restoration. In this sacred pause, you are invited to step out of the shadows of uncertainty and into the light of divine attention. The world may try to define you by rumors, by misunderstandings, by the actions of others, but heaven sees you whole. The contrast is sharp, the fear that you could be erased, and the faith that you are eternally known. Let yourself feel the urgency, but do not let it become panic. This is not a warning meant to frighten you, but a whisper meant to awaken you. The next 30 seconds are not about what someone else might do, but about what you are willing to see and claim for yourself. The courtroom is a symbol, a place where truth and lies wrestle, where your name is spoken, where your story is weighed. What does courtroom mean to you right now? Is it a memory of betrayal, a fear of being misunderstood, a moment when you felt powerless? Or is it a place where you are finally seen, where justice is not just a word but a promise? Take a deep breath, dear one. Let the air fill your lungs and settle your spirit. If you feel led, write down what courtroom means to you in this season. Is it a relationship on trial, a dream that feels threatened, a reputation at stake? There is power in naming what you face. As you write, know that you are not alone in this moment. Heaven leans in. Archangel Michael stands beside you, sword drawn, not to strike, but to shield. The papers in the woman's hand may carry accusations, but the scrolls of heaven carry your true name. This is the tension. Confusion presses in, but clarity is rising. Fear whispers that you could be erased, but faith insists you are indelible. The world may see only the surface, but heaven sees the heart. You are not defined by the papers others carry, but by the purpose God has placed within you. The next 30 seconds are not a countdown to disaster, but an invitation to alignment. What is at stake is not just your reputation, but your restoration. What is promised is not just relief from accusation, but a revelation of your true standing. Let this moment be a turning point. As you sit with the image of the courtroom, the woman, the papers, and the angelic declaration, allow yourself to feel both the weight and the wonder. You are standing in the gap between what others say and what heaven knows. The open loop is this: what will be revealed when the papers are read? What will you discover about yourself when the dust settles? The answer is not yet given, but the promise is clear. Restoration is possible, and you are not alone in the waiting. If you are willing, whisper this simple declaration: I am seen. I am protected. My name is written in heaven. Let these words settle over you like a shield. The courtroom moment is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a new chapter. Hold on to this truth as we move forward, for what is at stake is not just your name, but your destiny. And as the next section unfolds, you will see that you are not alone in this hidden struggle. There is a greater presence, a deeper protection, and a story still being written on your behalf. There is a particular ache that comes not from distant enemies, but from those who once stood close: family, friends, trusted companions. It is the sting of feeling threatened, overlooked, or even erased by someone whose presence once brought comfort. If you have ever felt the chill of betrayal or the ache of being misunderstood, know this: you are not alone. This hidden struggle is more common than you might imagine, and it does not make you weak or unworthy. In fact, it is often those with the deepest hearts who feel these wounds most sharply. Perhaps you have carried the weight of a word spoken in anger, or the silence of someone who once called you by name. Maybe you have watched as your story was rewritten by another's hand, or felt the cold shadow of being left out, dismissed, or doubted. These moments can make you question your worth, your belonging, even your purpose. The pain of isolation is real, and it can feel as if you are wandering through a wilderness with no one to call your name. But, dear one, even in the loneliest places, you are not abandoned. Let's name the contrast: isolation versus presence. The world may try to convince you that you are alone in your struggle, that no one sees the tears you cry in secret or the prayers you whisper in the dark. But heaven's perspective is different. You are seen. You are known. You are surrounded by a presence that does not waver, even when human relationships falter. Archangel Michael, the great protector, stands watch over you, not as a distant sentinel, but as a near and compassionate guardian. God Himself draws near to the broken-hearted, gathering every fragment of your story and holding it with care. Betrayal can make you feel exposed and unprotected, as if the very ground beneath you could give way. But protection is not just a promise for the future, it is a reality in this very moment. The presence of God, the ministry of angels, the prayers of those who love you from afar, all these form a shield around your heart. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. Even when others fail to recognize your value, heaven celebrates your existence. Take a moment now to recall a time when you felt unseen or misunderstood. Let yourself remember, not to reopen the wound, but to bring it into the light where healing can begin. What did you need in that moment? What words would have soothed your heart? Now, as an act of gentle self-kindness, write a compassionate note to yourself. It can be as simple as, I see you. I honor your pain. You are worthy of love and protection. Let these words be a balm, a reminder that your story matters. You are not defined by the actions or opinions of others. Your identity is not at the mercy of those who misunderstand or misrepresent you. You are beloved, chosen, and fiercely protected. The presence that surrounds you is greater than any isolation you have felt. The protection offered to you is stronger than any betrayal you have endured. As you hold this truth, let it settle deep within. You are not alone in your hidden struggle. There is a community of souls who have walked this path, and there is a heavenly host that stands with you even now. The pain of being threatened or erased is real, but it is not the end of your story. There is a greater presence, a deeper protection, and a love that will not let you go. As we move forward, we will begin to uncover the patterns that have led to these moments of pain, not to blame, but to bring understanding and release. The unseen battle is not just about what has happened to you, but about what is being healed and restored within you. Stay with me, dear one, as we step into the next chapter of this journey together. There is a battle that rages beneath the surface, often invisible to the eyes of others, yet deeply felt in the quiet chambers of your heart. It is the battle of patterns, those repeating cycles that seem to draw you back, again and again, to the same courtroom moments of accusation, misunderstanding, or betrayal. If you have ever wondered why certain struggles seem to follow you, why the same wounds are reopened by different faces, you are not alone. This is not a sign of weakness or failure, but an invitation to see with new eyes and to break free from what has held you bound. Let's name the contrast at work here: delay versus release, chasing versus carrying. So often, when you find yourself in the midst of conflict or accusation, it feels as if you are chasing after justice, chasing after understanding, chasing after the restoration you long for. The more you chase, the more elusive it seems. Delay becomes a familiar companion, and hope can feel like a distant promise. But what if, instead of chasing, you were called to carry something different? What if the patterns that have delayed your release are not punishments, but signposts pointing to a deeper healing? Consider the cycles that have shown up in your life. Perhaps it is the pattern of being misunderstood, where your intentions are questioned and your words twisted. Maybe it is the cycle of betrayal, where trust is broken by those you let close. Or it could be the experience of being overlooked, your contributions unseen, your name left out of the story. These patterns are not random, they are woven into the fabric of your journey, often rooted in old wounds or unhealed places. Yet, they do not define you. They are not your identity, nor are they your destiny. It is important to understand that these patterns are not personal failings. They are not evidence that you are unworthy or unloved. Rather, they are the battlegrounds where your faith is refined and your character is shaped. The enemy would have you believe that delay is a sign of defeat, that repeated betrayal means you are destined for disappointment. But heaven's perspective is different. Delay is not denial. The patterns you face are not accusations against you, but opportunities for release and restoration. Take a moment, dear one, to reflect on your own journey. Is there a repeating pattern that has shown up in your relationships, your work, your spiritual life? Perhaps it is a cycle of striving, always feeling you must prove yourself, always running to catch up, always chasing after approval or acceptance. Or maybe it is a pattern of retreat, pulling back, hiding your gifts, shrinking in the face of conflict. These patterns are not your fault, but they are not meant to be your future. Here is a gentle, practical step for you. Identify one repeating pattern in your life. Write it down. Give it a name. Then, journal about its impact. How has it shaped your choices, your emotions, your sense of self? What has it cost you, and what has it taught you? As you write, do so without judgment or blame. This is not about finding fault, but about bringing what is hidden into the light, where healing can begin. You may discover that these patterns are connected to old stories, moments when you were not protected, when your voice was silenced, when your worth was questioned. You may see how these cycles have delayed your release, keeping you in a holding pattern of waiting, hoping, and sometimes despairing. But as you name them, you begin to loosen their grip. You move from chasing after answers to carrying a new awareness, a new authority. The truth is, you are not powerless in the face of these patterns. You are not doomed to repeat them forever. With every act of awareness, every moment of honesty, you are breaking the cycle. You are stepping out of delay and into release. You are moving from chasing after what you lack to carrying the truth of who you are, beloved, chosen, protected. As you continue this journey, remember that the unseen battle is not just about what has happened to you, but about what is being transformed within you. The patterns of betrayal and delay are real, but they are not the final word. There is a greater story unfolding, one where release is possible and restoration is promised. Hold on to this hope as we move forward. The next step is to recognize the signs and confirmations that heaven sends along the way, reminders that you are not alone, that your journey is seen, and that breakthrough is closer than you think. Stay open, dear one, for the signs of release are already beginning to appear. There are moments, dear one, when the world feels thick with confusion, when you wonder if your prayers have been heard, if your story matters, if heaven is truly aware of what you are facing. In these times, it is easy to feel unseen, as if your struggle is hidden behind a veil that no one can pierce. Yet, even in the fog of uncertainty, heaven is always speaking. Divine confirmation is not a rare event reserved for the chosen few. It is a gentle language that God and His angels use to remind you that you are seen, known, and never forgotten. Heaven's signs often arrive in ways that bypass logic and reach straight to the heart. Sometimes, it is a dream that lingers long after you wake, carrying a message that feels both mysterious and familiar. Other times, it is a number that repeats itself, on clocks, receipts, or license plates, catching your attention just when you need reassurance. You may hear a name spoken unexpectedly, or find yourself drawn to a passage of scripture or a song lyric that seems to answer the very question you have been carrying. These are not coincidences. They are invitations to move from confusion to clarity, from feeling unseen to knowing you are divinely noticed. In the next 24 hours, pay attention to the subtle ways heaven may be reaching out to you. It could be a sudden sense of peace in the midst of anxiety, a word of encouragement from a stranger, or a moment of clarity that breaks through your doubt. Over the next 3 days, you might notice patterns emerging, recurring dreams, repeated numbers, or unexpected reminders of God's promises. By the end of 7 days, you may look back and realize that a thread of confirmation has been woven through your week, guiding you gently from uncertainty to assurance. The contrast is clear. Confusion clouds your vision, making you question what is real and what is imagined. But clarity comes when you recognize that heaven is not silent, and you are not invisible. The signs may be subtle, but they are real. They are the fingerprints of a loving God who delights in revealing Himself to those who seek Him. You are not left to wander in the dark. You are being led, step by step, toward the truth of your identity and the certainty of your protection. To anchor this process, I invite you to keep a signs journal for the next 7 days. Each day, set aside a few moments to write down anything that feels like a nudge from heaven, a dream, a number, a name, a sudden insight, or a moment of unexpected peace. Do not worry about whether it makes sense right away. Simply record what you notice, and allow the pattern to reveal itself over time. This simple act of attention is a way of saying, I am open. I am listening. I trust that heaven is speaking. As you begin to notice and record these signs, you will find that the line between the seen and the unseen grows thinner. What once felt like confusion will give way to clarity. What once seemed hidden will be brought into the light. You are not alone in your search for confirmation. Heaven is eager to show you that you are on the right path. Let this be your encouragement as we move forward. The signs are already there, waiting to be seen. Your willingness to notice is itself an act of faith, a declaration that you believe in a God who speaks, a God who sees, a God who confirms His love for you in ways both great and small. Stay attentive, beloved, for the next step is to understand the authority and protection that stand behind every sign you receive. There is a reason, beloved, that your heart stirs at the mention of Archangel Michael. He is not a distant figure in ancient stories, but a living presence in the ongoing narrative of your life, a champion of justice, a shield against betrayal, a messenger of God's unwavering protection. When the world feels hostile, when accusations swirl and the threat of erasure looms, it is Michael who stands at the threshold, sword drawn, declaring that no earthly decree can override the verdict of heaven. Let us pause and consider the spiritual framework that surrounds you. In the courts of heaven, justice is not a cold calculation but a living force, rooted in the character of God Himself. Divine justice is not delayed or denied by human schemes. It is patient, precise, and always on time. When you feel the sting of betrayal or the fear that your name could be erased by the actions of another, remember this: your true identity is not written on fragile paper, but inscribed on the heart of God. No document, no accusation, no earthly authority can erase what heaven has decreed. This is the contrast that defines your journey: fear versus faith, betrayal versus protection. Fear whispers that you are vulnerable, that the words or actions of others can undo your destiny. But faith rises up to remind you that you are surrounded by a greater authority. Archangel Michael is not merely a symbol of strength. He is a real and present help, dispatched by God to defend those who call upon divine justice. His presence is a promise that you are never left to fight alone. When you find yourself in a courtroom moment, whether literal or symbolic, where your reputation, your dreams, or your very name are on trial, you are invited to stand in the authority that has been given to you. You do not have to cower in fear or shrink beneath the weight of accusation. Instead, you can invoke the protection of Michael and the justice of God, knowing that heaven's verdict is final and unchanging. Let this truth settle deep within you: you are protected, not just in theory, but in practice. The shield of Michael is not a distant hope, but a present reality. When betrayal comes close, when the threat feels personal, you are not left defenseless. The authority of heaven is your inheritance, and the protection of angels is your birthright as a beloved child of God. In practical terms, this authority can be expressed in the boundaries you set and the words you speak. When you sense that someone is carrying papers against you, accusations, judgments, or attempts to rewrite your story, you have the right to respond with clarity and confidence. Here is a simple boundary script you can use in those moments. I honor your perspective, but I do not accept any words or actions that do not align with the truth of who I am in God's eyes. I release what is not mine to carry, and I stand in the protection and justice of heaven. Speak these words aloud if you feel led, or write them down as a declaration of your authority. This is not about confrontation for its own sake, but about standing firm in the truth that you are not defined by the judgments of others. You are protected by a power greater than any earthly system, and your name is safe in the records of heaven. Betrayal may come, but it cannot undo the protection that surrounds you. Fear may rise, but it cannot silence the voice of faith that declares you are seen, known, and fiercely defended. The authority of Archangel Michael is not a distant promise, but a present help. When you call upon him, you are aligning yourself with the justice of God, a justice that restores, redeems, and never forgets. As you move forward, let this assurance guide you. No earthly paper can erase a name written in heaven. The courtroom moments you face are not the end of your story, but the setting for your vindication. The protection you seek is already yours, and the justice you long for is already at work on your behalf. Hold this truth close as we continue. The next step is to walk the path of reversal, from delay to release, from accusation to restoration. You are not only protected, you are being prepared for breakthrough. Let faith rise above fear, and let the authority of heaven lead you into the next chapter of your journey. There comes a moment, dear one, when the weight of delay becomes too heavy to carry alone. You may have felt as if your life has been on pause, your dreams held back by invisible hands, your name caught in the web of someone else's narrative. The ache of waiting, the sting of being overlooked, the frustration of doors that refuse to open, these are not signs that you are forgotten, but invitations to a deeper journey. The path from delay to divine release is not a straight line, but a sacred process, and you are being gently led every step of the way. Let us begin by naming the contrast: delay versus release, scarcity versus overflow. Delay can feel like a barren season, where every effort seems to yield little fruit and hope is rationed in small, uncertain portions. Scarcity whispers that there is not enough time, opportunity, favor, or love. But release is the moment when the tide turns, when what was withheld is suddenly poured out, when the doors swing open and you step into the fullness that was always meant for you. Overflow is not just abundance, it is the evidence that heaven's timing is perfect, and that what was delayed was never denied. The first step on this reversal path is surrender. This is not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of trust. It is the willingness to lay down your striving, your need to control every outcome, and to place your story in the hands of the one who sees the end from the beginning. Take a moment now to breathe deeply and ask yourself, what is one area of my life where I have been holding on too tightly? Is it a relationship, a dream, a reputation, or a hope that feels just out of reach? As you identify this area, gently release it to God in prayer. You might whisper, I surrender this to you. I trust your timing. I believe that what is for me will not pass me by. The second step is to set healthy boundaries. Release is not just about letting go, it is also about protecting what is sacred. When you sense that someone is trying to define your worth or rewrite your story, remember the authority you carry. You have the right to say, "This is not mine to carry. I choose to stand in the truth of who I am." Boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but gates that allow what is good and true to enter while keeping out what is harmful. If you have struggled to set boundaries in the past, know that you are not alone. Each time you honor your own value, you make space for release to flow. The third step is to seek wise counsel. Divine release often comes through the voices of those who have walked the path before you, mentors, friends, spiritual leaders, or even a trusted counselor. Do not be afraid to reach out and share your struggle. Sometimes, the very act of speaking your truth aloud breaks the power of delay and opens the way for new perspective and support. Wisdom is a gift, and you are worthy of receiving it. The fourth step is to take one practical action this week that aligns with your desire for release. It could be as simple as making a phone call, writing a letter, applying for a new opportunity, or starting a new habit. The key is to move, even if the step feels small. Action is the bridge between hope and fulfillment, between waiting and receiving. As you take this step, do so with the expectation that heaven is working behind the scenes, orchestrating details you cannot yet see. Throughout this journey, remember that release is not just an event, but a process. There may be moments when the old patterns of delay try to reassert themselves, when scarcity tries to reclaim its hold. In those moments, return to the truth. You are not defined by what has been withheld, but by what is being prepared for you. The God who promises overflow is faithful to deliver it in His perfect time. As you walk this reversal path, let your heart be anchored in both spiritual guidance and practical wisdom. Pray with expectation, set boundaries with courage, seek counsel with humility, and act with faith. Choose one area to release control, and one action to take this week as a sign of your trust in the process. Write it down, speak it aloud, and let it be your offering of faith. The journey from delay to release is not just about what you receive, but about who you become along the way. You are moving from scarcity to overflow, from waiting to fulfillment, from being defined by others to standing in your true identity. Hold on to this hope, for the next step is to seal your journey with rituals and declarations that anchor your breakthrough in both heaven and earth. The reversal has begun, and you are walking into your release. There is a sacred power, beloved, in the words you speak and the rituals you embrace. When you feel isolated, when fear tries to close in, the act of declaring truth aloud becomes a bridge from loneliness to presence, from trembling to trust. In every season of restoration, heaven invites you not just to receive, but to participate, to join your voice with the chorus of faith that echoes through generations. You are not alone in this moment. As you speak, as you pray, as you declare, you are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses and the loving presence of God and His angels. Let us begin with a simple, powerful prayer for protection. If you feel comfortable, speak these words aloud or whisper them in your heart. God of justice, I invite your protection over my life. Archangel Michael, stand guard at every doorway of my heart and home. Shield me from every accusation, every scheme, every shadow of fear. I receive your covering, and I rest in the assurance that I am never alone. Amen. Now, let us move into a declaration of restoration. Repeat after me, or make these words your own. I declare that what was lost will be restored. Where I have been overlooked, I will be seen. Where I have been silenced, my voice will rise. Where I have been delayed, release is coming. I am not defined by fear, but by faith. I am not isolated, but surrounded by divine presence and love. Feel the shift as you speak these words. The contrast is real. Isolation tries to convince you that you are forgotten, but presence reminds you that you are cherished and watched over. Fear may whisper that you are vulnerable, but faith answers with the assurance that you are protected, restored, and never abandoned. Each declaration is a seed planted in the soil of your spirit, destined to bear fruit in due season. This is not just a ritual for today, but a practice you can return to whenever you need to remember who you are and whose you are. When you feel the old patterns of isolation or fear rising up, pause and speak a declaration of truth. Let your words become a shield, a song, a reminder that you are part of something greater than yourself. Now, I invite you to participate in this moment of restoration. Take a few minutes to write your own short declaration, just 1 or 2 sentences that capture your hope, your faith, your trust in God's protection and restoration. It could be as simple as, I am safe, I am seen, I am restored, or as personal as, no weapon formed against me will prosper, I walk in the light of God's love. When you are ready, share your declaration in the comments below. As you do, know that your words may be the encouragement someone else needs to hear today. This is how we move from isolation to presence, from fear to faith, not by waiting for restoration to come, but by declaring it, together, in unity and hope. Your voice matters. Your participation is powerful. As you join in this ritual, you are weaving your story into a tapestry of restoration that stretches across time and space. Let this be your practice in the days ahead. Return to these prayers and declarations whenever you need to remember that you are not alone. Speak them over your life, your family, your future. Invite others to join you, and watch as the atmosphere shifts from heaviness to hope, from silence to song. As we continue, we will look at the timelines and checkpoints that mark your journey, reminders that restoration is not just a promise for the future, but a process unfolding even now. For today, let your declaration be your anchor, your offering, your act of faith. Restoration is here, and you are part of it. There is a quiet anticipation that comes when you sense breakthrough is near, a gentle stirring that whispers, change is coming. In the journey from delay to release, from confusion to clarity, time itself becomes a canvas for God's unfolding work. While no one can predict the exact hour of your breakthrough, heaven often marks your path with signs and shifts that unfold in sacred windows of time. These are not deadlines to fear, but invitations to watch, to listen, and to participate in the process of your own restoration. In the next 24 hours, you may notice a subtle shift, a moment of unexpected peace, a word of encouragement, or a small door opening where you once saw only walls. This is the first ripple of release, a gentle reminder that God is already moving on your behalf. Over the next 3 days, pay attention to patterns. Perhaps a conversation brings clarity, a long-standing confusion begins to lift, or you receive confirmation in a way that feels undeniably personal. These are the early signs that the tide is turning, that what was delayed is beginning to move. By the end of 7 days, you may find that the atmosphere around you has changed. Old fears may lose their grip, and new opportunities may begin to emerge. You might notice that your prayers are answered in unexpected ways, or that a sense of hope and clarity replaces the heaviness of waiting. In 14 days, look for the fruit of your faithfulness, restored relationships, renewed strength, or a breakthrough in an area that once felt impossible. Remember, these time windows are not tests to pass or fail, but gentle checkpoints to help you recognize the movement of God in your life. The contrast is clear. Delay can make you feel stuck, but release is a process that unfolds step by step. Confusion clouds your vision, but clarity comes as you pay attention to the small shifts and celebrate each sign of progress. You are not waiting in vain, you are being prepared for the fullness of what is coming. To anchor your faith in this process, I invite you to begin a 7-day gratitude practice. Each day, set aside a few moments to write down one thing you are grateful for, no matter how small. It could be a kind word, a moment of peace, a new insight, or simply the strength to keep going. As you record these moments, you will begin to see the evidence of breakthrough taking shape, even before the final answer arrives. Gratitude is a powerful lens that transforms delay into anticipation and confusion into clarity. Here is a journaling prompt to guide you. What has shifted in my heart, my circumstances, or my perspective in the past 24 hours? What signs of release or confirmation have I noticed? Return to this question each day, and let your journal become a record of God's faithfulness and your own journey from waiting to receiving. As you move through these time windows, remember that breakthrough is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the gentle unfolding of hope, the softening of old fears, or the steady return of joy. Trust the process, and celebrate each step, knowing that every moment of gratitude, every sign of progress, is a testimony to the release that is already underway. As we continue, we will explore how to walk in wisdom and discernment, setting healthy boundaries and responding to objections with faith, not fear. For now, let your gratitude be your guide, and watch as the timeline of breakthrough unfolds before you, one day at a time. In the midst of spiritual journeys and prophetic moments, it's natural to wonder, what if I'm wrong? Or, how do I protect myself from disappointment or harm? These questions are not signs of weak faith, but invitations to walk in wisdom. Discernment is the gift that helps you distinguish between the gentle nudge of the Spirit and the anxious voice of fear. It is the difference between chasing after every sign in desperation and carrying a quiet confidence that you are guided and protected. Fear often urges you to react, to grasp for control, or to second-guess every step. Faith, on the other hand, invites you to pause, to listen, and to move forward with assurance, even when the path is not fully clear. The contrast is real. Fear makes you chase after answers, while faith teaches you to carry peace, trusting that what is meant for you will not pass you by. You do not need to retaliate against those who misunderstand or oppose you, nor do you need to prove yourself to every doubter. Healthy boundaries are not barriers of bitterness, but gates of wisdom that protect your heart and honor your journey. To help you walk in discernment, here is a simple checklist for recognizing the difference between a spiritual nudge and anxious worry. Does this prompting bring peace, even if it challenges me, or does it stir confusion and unrest? Is the message consistent with God's character, loving, just, and true, or does it contradict what I know of divine goodness? Does this nudge encourage me to act with integrity and compassion, or does it push me toward fear, secrecy, or retaliation? Am I seeking wise counsel and confirmation, or am I isolating myself in uncertainty? After prayer and reflection, do I feel a sense of release and trust, or am I left feeling pressured and unsettled? Use this checklist whenever you feel uncertain. Write your answers down, and let them guide your next steps. Remember, discernment grows with practice, and boundaries become stronger each time you honor them. You are not called to chase after every voice or sign, but to carry the assurance that you are led by a God who is faithful and true. As you continue, let faith be your compass and wisdom your shield. The journey ahead is not about proving yourself, but about walking in the freedom and protection that have already been given to you. Next, we will close this chapter with a vision of restoration and a gentle invitation to step fully into your new season. Beloved, as we come to this final moment together, let your heart rest in the assurance that the story is not ending in scarcity or loss, but in overflow and restoration. The courtroom scene that once filled you with dread is now transformed by the presence of divine justice. The threats that once loomed so large have been met by a greater authority, one that does not merely defend, but restores, redeems, and overflows with goodness. You are not left standing alone in the echo of accusation. You are surrounded by the presence of God, the protection of angels, and the quiet strength of a community that believes in your worth. Imagine, for a moment, the verdict being read, not by human lips, but by the voice of heaven itself. The papers that threaten to erase your name are rendered powerless. The accusations dissolve in the light of truth. Restoration is not just a distant hope, it is a present reality, unfolding in ways both seen and unseen. Where you once felt isolated, you are now drawn into the embrace of presence. Where you once feared there would never be enough love, enough justice, enough hope, you now stand in the overflow of God's provision. This is the contrast that marks your new season. Scarcity gives way to abundance, and isolation is replaced by connection. The final verdict is not one of loss, but of restoration. Every delay, every betrayal, every moment of confusion has been met by a greater promise. You are not defined by what was withheld, but by what is now being poured out. The protection you longed for is yours. The justice you prayed for is being fulfilled. The restoration you dared to hope for is already at work within and around you. Let this vision settle deep in your spirit. You are restored, you are protected, you are seen. The journey has not been easy, but it has brought you to a place of greater strength and deeper faith. You are not alone, and you never were. The presence that surrounds you now is the same presence that has carried you through every trial, every delay, every hidden battle. As you step into this new chapter, I invite you to make a declaration of restoration. Speak it aloud, write it in your journal, or share it in the comments below. I receive restoration. I walk in overflow. I am surrounded by presence and protected by divine justice. Let your words become a testimony, not just for yourself, but for others who are still waiting for their own breakthrough. Your story matters, and your voice can be the encouragement someone else needs to keep believing. This is also a time to reach out. Restoration is not meant to be carried alone. If you feel led, connect with a trusted friend, mentor, or spiritual guide this week. Share your journey, your hopes, and your victories. Allow yourself to be supported, and offer your support in return. Community is one of the greatest gifts of restoration, turning isolation into presence and scarcity into shared abundance. As you move forward, remember that the final verdict is not just a moment, but a movement, a continual unfolding of God's justice, protection, and love in your life. Each day is a new opportunity to walk in overflow, to celebrate restoration, and to invite others into the presence that has changed everything for you. So, dear one, declare your restoration. Share your story. Reach out for support, and offer it freely. The verdict is in: you are restored, you are protected, and you are never alone. Let this truth guide you into your next step, and may your life be a living testimony to the abundance and presence of God.